Alright guys, welcome back to another Pokemon Masters video. So today we're actually going to talk about some of these 5 stars in the game. There's been some controversy around some of those, so you know, I'm going to attempt to settle a lot of that. So before we actually get into that, let's see if we could pull some 5 stars. Gonna do our daily discounts first, so let's see if we can get anything good. Personally hoping for, I don't know, Brendon, I guess. Brendon would be nice. Who else? Brendon. Phoebe would be nice, I guess. I don't really... Kris, extra pair of Kris would be cool. But otherwise, we just got a area doesn't said, which is fine. Let's do one more on the Olivia banner. By the way, Olivia is at sync level 5, so if we get another one, we will actually obtain a 5-star power-up, which is nice. Which I'm probably gonna use on Olivia anyways. So, okay, got a 3-star power-up, so that's fine, I guess. I'm gonna use it on Nosepass, probably. Nosepass Roxanne. I really want to max her out. She's really great in this game for a 3-star, right? Okay, last one, there we go, we got Candace. Okay, that's fine. So anyways, oh, she's only 3 out of 5? Okay, I thought she was like 4 or 5 out of 5 for some reason. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So today we're gonna talk about a lot of these, I guess, 5-star sync pairs in the game. So there's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's currently 10 5-star sync pairs in the game, and a lot of these are really great, and some of these kind of suck. So let's go over them. So my ranking criteria is going to be something like this. So first of all, how does it perform in a vacuum? So, you know, just how good are its stats, its moveset and all that. Typing may also have a slight influence as well, although typing and matchups in this game are kind of sad, since like every Pokemon only has like 1 weakness and only 1 typing and no resistance and no immunity, which I don't know why they keep on trying to like dumb down Pokemon games like this, but I don't know, it's kind of frustrating. But aside from that, that's one main factor, and then the other very important factor I would also add to this is just their general usefulness. How many, you know, EX co-ops can you use them in? How many, you know, how good are they in single player? You know, how just mainly more so there's a more you know, a weight on the amount of EX co-ops they can accomplish, since those are the hardest events in the game, right? So anyways, let's go ahead and start this off then. So first of all, the worst, in my opinion, the worst 5-star sync pair in the game is Cheren. And Cheren, like, poor guy, like, he really doesn't have anything. So in terms of support, first of all, so you got full heal, which is nice. Full heal is nice. Apply Yourself is a super weird move. Like, increases the move gauges of all allied sync pairs by 2. Already, you know, worse than whatever Superior has. And then, well, it really depends, because this also has a second skill, and also makes all allied sync pairs gradually heal themselves. The healing percentage really isn't that great, honestly, and I really don't think it matters too much, especially in harder missions and stuff. So honestly, Cheren, really not that great. Like, Apply Yourself, maybe there's a niche out there. Maybe there's a niche out there. But it's some really trippy niche, man. Like, it's really hard to find a really great use for Cheren. And also, I'm just gonna go into decks so I could also see stats and stuff. So yeah, that's its 2 support moves. As for its other 2 moves, you got Facade and Crunch. Crunch, I mean, it does damage, but then again, you know, it really, you know, it's a support. I don't know why you're trying to do a lot of damage. And besides, it's not even a stab, right? It doesn't have same attack type boost, same type attack boost. A type boost? Did I just say a type boost? Same type attack boost. And then Facade is just, you know, it's not terrible, it's extremely situational. So there's that. The sync move is nothing to really talk about, I guess. Like, sure, it will do a crap ton of damage if the, you know, if you are affected by a status condition, but it's really hard to get affected by a status condition in this game because, you know, Marley exists, Arcanine exists, so every time you're fighting something that you know, status conditions would be a big issue for you, like, you'll just use Marley and Arcanine. Like, why won't you use Marley and Arcanine? It will just make it so that status conditions don't affect you at all. And, like, unless there's, like, a really super niche situation where, like, oh, this damage is just enough to take out your opponent. And also, it's a normal type, so it's not super effective against anything, which is kind of sad. For the sync move, right? So yeah, overall, not a huge fan of Stetland and Cheren, probably the worst one on here. So moving on, the second worst one is what, Acerola and Palossand, right? So here's the thing with these two sync pair. I actually like them a lot. Like, I find their kit really interesting. It has X defense, right? X defense isn't, I mean, it's not bad just because you could combo it with over here, which, you know, makes your opponent, it draws aggro, right? And then also heals itself. So that's actually a pretty interesting niche technique, right? And then X defense obviously helps with that as well. In terms of her stats, she has okay-ish stats for tanking. No, actually, she has pretty decent stats for tanking. But overall, like, if you, like, they're really, the biggest problem I think with Acerola is just there really isn't a use for her at the moment, and she's also a tech unit, which is also an issue because, like, most tech units, like, they suffer to find an identity in this game, like, to find a role for themselves in certain stages and stuff. And that's the biggest issue with Acerola as well. You really can't use her in much. I think there's like one super niche use, like, in one of the co-ops, but like there's like so many more better options than her. And then going over other moves, Astonish, that's just something, you know, to give to it's just a high accuracy damaging move to get Unity and co-op. And then Sandstorm. Sandstorm's interesting because there are a few Pokemon in the game that actually benefit from Sandstorm, right? And then you also have passive skill with Sand Fortress, so if you set up Sandstorm, which you almost always will have to set up, since, you know, why run Acerola if you're not running any sand boosted Pokemon, right? So that passive skill should always be up as well, so that's great. And then Never Ending Royal Nightmare, it's okay, you know, but then again, most of these sync moves, I really don't think we need to talk too much about, since in most case scenarios you will be using a striker's sync move anyways, so yeah, too bad. Moving on. So now we're getting into actually summonable, summonable 5-star territory. So number 8 on this list, I would say, is Lyra. And it's kind of sad because, you know, Lyra, it's a new unit. In a vacuum, Lyra's pretty nice, right? You know, she's got a lot of HP, even though she doesn't have the highest bulk in the game. But, you know, still a lot of HP is always nice for bulk anyways, right? You got Light Screen. Light Screen's really good. Sunny Side Up. Here's the thing with Sunny Side Up, and I've talked about this so many times. So I'll just make, you know, I'll go over Lyra really quick. So obviously you need Sun to make Lyra like extremely powerful, and the only Sun unit in the game right now is Blade Ponytail, which is a tech unit, and overall it just isn't really useful. And the other thing with Lyra is you just can't really use it in too many events. Like, there are some certain events, I've seen people use her in Berries co-op, right? That you come in, tank a hit, tank it really well, right? And, you know, some other really niche uses, but overall, she doesn't have too many uses in endgame content, and she's an okay support in a vacuum. You know, if we had like a better Sunny Day unit, you know, she would be much better maybe. But we'll just have to see what happens then. But at the moment, I'd put her at number 8. Moving on to number 7 on this list. Number 7 is our poor Cheren. So Cheren, before pre-release, she was like the best thing in the game, right? Mega Houndoom, absolutely bonkers, you know, crazy special attacks. Look at that special attack stat, oh my goodness, right? Absolutely crazy special attack stats. Dark Pulse, tons of damage. Snarl, AoE, tons of damage as well with super high special attack stat. Really, to an extent, self-sustainable with Entertain Me, and also Dire Hit Plus, right? And then a decent sync move, which turns her into Mega Houndoom, which is the whole point of Cheren, right? So, and the passive skill prevents Pokemon from getting burned, even though it's fire type. Well, half fire type, but in this game, it's only dark type, right? And then you also have Wide Awake, which you can't fall asleep. So, Cheren would be probably lower than Lyra if the Berry event didn't come out. The Berry event actually gave Cheren much more use than she would have had before, right? Because the biggest problem with Cheren before was, you know, as soon as co-op came out, she had like almost no use in co-op. And Megas are kind of terrible in co-op because before you actually get any use, you have to Mega, right? So it takes forever to Mega in co-op, so that's why Houndoom and Cheren, as well as Blue suffers from this as well. You know, it just doesn't have as much use in co-op as, say, you know, an Olivia or Brendon, who could just, you know, don't need to sync move, and they could just do a lot of stuff out there, right? So that's for Cheren. Hopefully she could get a comeback in the future. They could make Megas not so terrible in co-op. That would be nice. But yeah, that's Cheren. So moving on to the next one, Blue. So Blue overall, you know, slightly better special attack. Well, you know, a bit better special attack than Mega Houndoom. In terms of his moves and stuff, let's talk about the passives first. That's really decent passives. Can't lower its accuracy and speed, right? These are pretty, you know, useful stats that you probably don't want to get lowered. And then the moves overall, and again, we're just looking at the Mega because, you know, pre-Mega doesn't matter that much, right? You're just using these for the Megas. Before it's a Mega, you know, it kind of sucks. So you have X special attack, and then Smell which is a great move. Raises evasiveness, accuracy, and crit rate. So all three of those are great stats to actually increase. And then special attack, so it's relatively, you know, self-sustainable, you know, strikers in the game. And then you have Air Cutter, that's an AoE, and, you know, better crit rate, which is nice. And then Hurricane, which is just massive damage with a massive special attack stat, right? But again, Blue suffers from the same thing that Cheren suffers, and all the other Mega Pokemon suffer. Is, you know, just before you Mega, it's just not as good. And although, you know, I would have to say Pidgeot is slightly better than Cheren in that category, but still, you need to Mega to actually do the biggest amounts of damage, right? So that kind of sucks. In terms of the content that Blue can actually be in, Blue is useful in Rosa in a lot of team comps. If you don't have Lycanroc, right? Blue is very useful in a lot of different team comps for Rosa. There's like a bunch of different team comps that you can run to beat Rosa, but they all require Blue, except for the Lycanroc one. But yeah, Blue overall doesn't have that much usage, but, you know, in single player and all that, just a really great unit. But again, gets shafted by the co-op usage. So that's Blue. Moving on to number 5, let's go to Kris. Kris is a weird one. Like, Kris, I mean, in a vacuum, she's kind of mediocre. She really is pretty mediocre. Like, Mega Kick is super unreliable, and you only have like 2 guaranteed hits with Pick Up the Pace, right? So if you ever land a Mega Kick, that's a lot of damage. But if you don't, that kind of sucks. Although, one thing that helps this Mega Kick is the passive skill, Water Shift, which changes normal type moves to water type moves, which it just gives Mega Kick stat, right? Which is great. And then also you have Waterfall, which is not terrible, not too much damage, but, you know, it does have a small chance of making target flinch. And then you also have Endurance, which is a very interesting passive. So it's, you know, if a Pokemon enters battle with full HP, allow it to endure a single overwhelming attack with 1 HP left. So it could kind of sort of act as a tank for like a huge sync move as well if you really don't have a tank in the back or whatever. Or like you want to tank a hit and then immediately do some damage before you die. I guess you could go with for Alligator as well. And in terms of, you know, the other moves, X attack, sharply raises user's attack, that's great, of course. And then pick up the pace, sharply raises user's speed, next attack, sure hit, and critical hit. So you're gonna use that in you know, with Mega Kicks. So that's 2 guaranteed Mega Kicks that are also guaranteed crits, so that's gonna do a lot of damage. But again, you know, as soon as you're done with pick up the pace, you'll just have to hope your Mega Kicks land, and if they don't, you're kind of screwed. And in terms of the content, there really is just, here's the thing with Kris, like, the most solid one that you can run Kris is with EX Very Hard Brock. But there are like some other ones that you could throw her in for like a second DPS, or like a backup DPS, which is pretty decent overall, because, you know, obviously you don't need as much setup as Cheren or Blue. So that's the reason why I ranked Kris above those two. But if you really just think, you know, she's just not as great as the other two in a vacuum, and you want to throw her slow or slightly below Kris or not Kris or Blue, she's Kris, Cheren or Blue, I guess I can see that argument. But me personally, I'll just put her over here, right? So, moving on to number 4 in the game. I'm going with Rosa. Rosa is a free-to-play unit. You get her, like, in Chapter 1. She is incredible. She's just incredible. She has incredible bulk. That's the thing for aggro, for those of you who don't know. The higher the bulk, you know, it draws aggro. And it's a massive tank. Let's look at passive skill first. Special defense can't be lowered, which is nice. She has absolutely crazy special defense and decent HP. Defense could have been better, but, you know, still not absolutely terrible, right? In terms of her moves kind of suck overall, or her damaging moves, right? Energy Ball and Giga Drain. Giga Drain does a decent amount of damage, actually. Energy Ball, it's just for that, you know, 100% accuracy, get that in, and also it's only 2 bars in comparison to Giga Drain. So it's for Unity, obviously. Giga Drain, you can maybe sometimes do some damage. I would not rely on that at all, but, you know, if you really need like a chip damage to take something out, you could use that. Time to Energize is great. Increases the move gauges of all allied sync pairs by 3, just like that. You know, most of your strikers' strongest attacks will require 3 sync bars, right? So this is always useful. And then special attack alt is great. Sharply reads special attack of all allied sync pairs. Even though most special attack strikers, they do have self-sustaining, or they usually do have X special attack themselves, or some sort of version of increasing their special attack. But obviously having a support do it just makes it much more easier for them. They could just, you know, focus their moves on DPSing instead. So overall, Rosa is great in a vacuum. Nothing too much for her sync moves, just a lot of damage, I guess. But then again, she doesn't have that much special attack stat. But in terms of the events you could actually use her in, there are quite a few. So here, you know, starting from Rosa, when it kind of gets interesting in terms of the events that you could use her in, or not events, the co-ops that you could use her in. So you could use her for Rosa herself. For a tank, you could use her for Erica's free-to-play method. Brock versus Brock, you could use Rosa as well. And just in general, like, if you ever need to tank a sync move from your opponent, you could just swap out your striker, swap in Rosa, tank a move, and then swap back into your striker as soon as their sync attack is finished. So, you know, her bulk is just great for that, right? So, yeah, that's superior. So moving on to the top 3. Number 3, I would put Phoebe in here just because, and the reason isn't, you know, Phoebe over Rosa or whatever, it's just because she's under the other 2. Strikers are just slightly more useful in this meta at the moment. So, let's look at Phoebe. Phoebe, you could use her in Skyla. Although the best method right now doesn't actually require Phoebe, but you know, you could use Phoebe for Skyla. It's still possible, right? So, in terms of her skills, Pass It On is great. Transfer half the amount of the sync pairs, raise stats to the sync pair that will switch in when the sync pair faints. This is this is hilarious and this is great, especially for co-op, right? And then Vigilance, Pokemon's protected against critical hits, which is also great as well, since Dusclops has a lot of bulk as well. She will be tanking a decent amount of hits, you know, when you're using Dusclops. And in terms of the moves, Dire Hit All, that's always great. Sharply raises, or Dire Hit All Plus, so that's just a better version of Lyra's, right? And then you also have Unbreakable Bonds. Lower the user's HP is, the more this move raises the move gauges and attack of all the sync pairs. So it raises physical attack and also raises move gauges. That's pretty sweet. And then Shadow Punch, this is usually used just for a unity attack, although in the Skyla stage, the Dusclops method, you actually use this for DPS, which is kind of funny. And then you also have Double Edge, which works really well in conjuncture with Pass It On, right? Because Double Edge, you know, the Phoebe kills herself in the process. So there's that, and the sync move is nothing to, you know, to really talk about. But yeah, Phoebe is just great across the board, stat wise, but you know, bulk wise. Her move set, really interesting move set. You know, with all the buffs and stuff, and then Pass It On. It's Phoebe's overall a great character. So moving on to the top 2. So this might be a bit controversial, but I'm putting Brendon at 2. Reason being is, I think in terms of power, if you're looking at them in a vacuum, you know, Brendon and Olivia are about similar. You can make an argument for Olivia being better, or you can make an argument for Brendon being better, right? I just think that the reason Brendon is slightly lower than Olivia is just because of the amount of events that you can actually use Brendon in, and you can use Brendon in a decent amount of events. You could use Brendon in Brock's co-op, you can use him in Barry's co-op, and then also the grass event as well, right? But that's about it, which is still a decent amount, but Olivia is just crazy in that category. We'll get to her in a bit. So, his skills, he has the same attack and special attack for Striker, and you know, decently high stats as well. You got Haste, can't lower its speed, whatever this word is, prevents the Pokemon from getting paralyzed, which is nice as well. And then you got Dire Hit Plus, no turning back, which is use a maximum of 3 slots. So you can basically like boost 6 for your attack and special attack for like 3 gauges, which is pretty crazy. And then you also have Leaf Storm, which does lower your special attack, but you know, it's a lot of damage. And then also Bullet Seed, which is just a really good physical option for Brendon instead, which is actually extremely useful, especially now in the Berry event. And in terms of the sync move, it's just a decent amount of damage, not and you know, don't have much else there. But in terms of the you know, again, in terms of event, you could use them, and it's mostly just those 3, mainly just those 3. So that's the only reason why I'm ranking Brendon under Olivia. Alright, now to number 1 on this list. I do think Olivia is still, you know, the best overall sync pair in the game, or 5-star at least. So, well, I actually do think she's the best one overall. But just in terms of her, let's just start from her passive. Raises Pokemon speed when it lands a critical hit, and then onto the moves. It works really well in conjunction with Hard with Diamonds, which raises accuracy and crit, and with the cost of sharply lowering the user's special defense, which is weird. Like, the move's name is Hard as Diamonds, but it makes you glassier, which is kind of weird. But anyways, I digress. You know, it works really well in conjunction with the passive, and then you also have this X attack, sharply raises user's attack, you know, which is really self-sustainable with a decent amount of physical damage, honestly. And then in terms of her moves, Stone Edge, you know, it also helps you know, land crits more easily, and obviously a lot of damage, physical damage. And then Rock Throw, which is just a higher accuracy move for Unity usually, or you know, chip damage to finish someone off, right? But the reason, the biggest reason, oh, also sync move, you know, loss of damage, not too much else. The biggest reason why I think Olivia is the best sync pair in the game at the moment is just the sheer amount of content you could use her in. Like, all the, like, I'm not even, well, I'm slightly exaggerating, but like, she could basically beat everything in the game. But like, just like look at all this stuff. Like EX Very Hard, Skyla, Rosa, Erica. So that's like what, 3 out of the 5. And then you also got, you know, the blue event right now, the rock type training event, and then you could basically bring her into like almost all of the main story co-ops as well. she's an absolute monster. And like in a vacuum, she's as good as Brendon, or even better, or slightly worse. It really depends on you, right? But overall, there's just so much use for Olivia at the moment. She's incredibly strong in a vacuum, and she has so much use in the game. And that is probably why, you know, I would say she is the best character in the game at the moment. You know, obviously this will change in the future, you know, if there's more diversity in terms of the events that they put out, right? There's more events that are weak to dark types or grass types. Maybe Brendon will surpass Olivia, maybe Cheren will move up. It really depends, right? And or if there's any new units in the future, but overall at the moment, I really do think Olivia's the best 5-star in the game. So, anyways, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about my ranking down in the comments below. Again, this is just totally my opinion. You could, if you disagree with it, you know, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to your new channel for some more Pokemon Masters content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.